Thank you for staying with us this far. We want to continue with the discussion that we have lined up for you. You can always interact with us using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Our official station handle is at KBC Channel 1. My handle is at Jain Wambui. Karibu tena sana in case you are just joining us. Now we want to move on to the next discussion, and this is all about the state of education and specifically higher education here in our country. The past 2 years have really shown us that anything can change at just the snap of a finger. But how has that affected our higher institutions of higher learning and higher education as a whole? Well, to help us with this conversation, this morning we have with us Professor Romanus Odhiambo, who is the Vice Chancellor at Meru University of Science and Technology. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning, Wambui.
Happy Valentine's.
Happy Valentine's to you and all the ladies and gentlemen in Kenya
that are watching us this beautiful morning.
Including my wife, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, who will be celebrating her 30th anniversary tomorrow with me.
Oh, happy anniversary.
Yes.
From the entire Good Morning Kenya fraternity. I do believe we represent each other here.
Yes.
Thank you so much for being with us today. Now, before we get even further into this conversation, tell us a bit about, the Meru University of Science and Technology, for those who might not really know what it's really about. Just briefly, a history into the institution.
Thank you very much, Wambui, and it's great to be here. Good morning, Kenya. Meru University of Science and Technology is a public university. It became a constituent college of JKUAT back in 2009, and then on 1st of March 2013 became a full-fledged university. So basically we are about 9 years old. We'll be 9 years old in March 1st this year. We are a science and technology university. Almost over 75% of the programs we offer are science, technology, and innovation programs. We are based just over Kenya. We are Mount Kenya. We are actually at the center of Kenya. That is moving from Tanzania to Meru, then from Meru to Ethiopia, just 50%.
Yes.
A very serene environment, lot of forests, lot of wild animals. By the way, all elephants, most of the elephants in Mount Kenya, when they give birth, they come to the maternity in Meru University. And so that's where we are, a very good place. And we have about 10,000 students, having been risen from around 4,000 in 2018 when I went there. So we have seen a lot of growth in the last 3 years, and we are very happy about this.
I can imagine. Yeah. Now, looking at also just the most recent, or rather this situation that we are in with this pandemic, we know education is one of the sectors that were heavily affected by the pandemic. And for most people, we always had news stories about primary schools and secondary schools closing, but institutions of higher learning, the conversation wasn't really as vocal around how they were affected. Paint a picture for us how that has been like.
Thank you very much. Wambui, I always remember His Excellency President Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta in March around 15th of 2020, when he went to the press and shut all the learning institutions, everybody, including the university. And for one, as universities, we didn't know what to do. And so we closed the universities for some time, and in the interim, we were wondering, what do we really do? Of course, people hoped that COVID would come and go, and then we'll just resume our normal.
Yeah.
That never was. And quickly, we started retooling, we started re-engineering ourselves. I remember having to call my staff and tell, especially the union leaders and the staff and the academics, that we really have to re-engineer ourselves so that we remain relevant to the reality on the ground. And so we had to move on from physical learning, the online, Wambui, I mean the physical, the in-person learning, to the online learning. And that means you are to retool the lecturers. You are to, most of them have always been used to in-person, where you stand in front of the students and the students sit the other side and you write and you talk and discuss. But this was not to be. So we had to retool them, give them new skills of online teaching when it comes to online pedagogy, give them the technology that they need to use, encourage every lecturer to get the ICT devices that are needed so that this could be done. But also the students themselves, again, they had always gotten used to sitting and being taught.
Yes.
But now this was not to be. There were no lecturers. And again, we had to really talk with our open and distance and e-learning Wambui, the directorate, to really retool the students and give them the skills that would allow them to really be online students. And that also touched so many things, even in the evaluation in terms of cards, assignments, examinations, and what have you. Everything has to change. Things were moving so fast.
Yes.
In fact, I remember at the beginning, the first 3 months, lecturers say no. Students also say no. But then when it started becoming like it is here with us, the leaders, the union leaders, the student union leaders and the staff union leaders came to me, Prof, I think we can do something. And so that's when now we came in. And today, as we talk, I think if there is anything, I know people may not understand this, but I think COVID has made us to discover there are other hundreds and thousands ways of doing these things.
Yes.
And so today we are not only teaching in person, but we are also blending, that I can teach even in my home in Migori, and I have students in Meru, I can interact with them. That I can have my management meeting every week. In fact, since COVID time, I think I've only had one physical meeting. I always run my university management meeting online. I've never had, since that March 2020, I've never had a physical in-person Senate meeting. I always run my meeting online. This is the best thing that ever happened. And so I think what we have learned is that more people are now accepting this, both the students and the staff in Meru University, and also I think in the whole university sector.
Yes.
Quite a number of people are actually accepting this. We are getting into a level where it is becoming the real norm now. And eventually, I think even examination, which has become a bit of a challenge in running online, will eventually get there.
And, you know, looking at the fact that you're also a public university,
Right.
and, you know, you're just speaking for Meru University in
Yes.
this particular case,
Yes.
we have so many other public universities that accommodate huge numbers of students that come from across the country. Looking at this situation, the way you had to adjust to the actual situation without any prior planning, how can the government come in to just ensure that in the future, we're not hoping for another pandemic, but in terms of equipping public universities?
Thank you, Wambui. This is the good question you have brought. What is the way forward? You know, nobody knew COVID-19 was coming.
Yes.
And all of a sudden it came and we panicked. We thought, in fact, I thought we were going all to be wiped out. The way we were seeing people in Wuhan, in China,
just
dying, and people from Europe,
Yeah.
some of them jumping and dying. We thought we were all going to die, all of us. I think we need to facilitate universities in terms of resources, in terms of forward planning, in terms of what is really needed so that we can actually see how to move on. As I've said, we must be prepared for all kind of situations. And what COVID has taught us in Meru University and all public universities is that a lot of investment need to be put in the technology that make us versatile, that make us ever ready to adapt to any emerging situation. That means investment in terms of the infrastructure, investment in terms of the technology. But we have also learned, especially for my students in Meru University of Science and Technology. You know, most of the time we have this hard kind of a situation where students come from Migori, they come from Lamu, they come from Muranga, they come from Meru itself, and they all park within the institution. COVID has told us that this is not going to be possible.
Yes.
We have also to allow to really talk with the community around to build state-of-the-art accommodation so that some of these things where the students are packed together and these viruses do come and affect them will not come. And so the communities wherever who are lucky where we have institutions of higher learning, that they need also to invest and be part and parcel of what the government is planning in terms of investment within the universities and colleges, that they also do a lot. For example, quite a number of almost over 80% of my students now do not stay in the university. They stay
compared
out.
to before.
Yeah. So this is really true, but I think the question you have asked, Wambui, it is very important that the council that own the university, the government, especially in public institutions, we need to put a lot of resources that can help us to prepare for this emergency that come when we least expect them.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Now, let's quickly transition to the other aspect, and this is all about the curriculum, because you have been part and parcel of the conversation around CBC 844, and you're bound to, you know, witness both sides of the divide. But we have seen so many parents and a few people in the value chain complaining about the CBC curriculum, others saying we need to revert back to the 844 system of education, and others proposing that let's keep going as what the CS himself has been on about. From your own expertise as, being part of the teaching fraternity as a professor, what are your thoughts on these two particular curriculums?
Thank you, Wambui. Excellent question. I'll answer that comment and question in maybe three ways.
Sure.
First, as a university professor, and secondly, perhaps as a parent.
Yes.
And thirdly, maybe as a Kenyan. Learning as a university professor can say like this: learning is a change in behavior that results in a repeated exercise, a repeated change in life. That when I go to class to teach people, I want to see a change. And that change should be reflected in the way people do things. They come to my class, they don't know most of the things, and then I start impacting them, and then they go outside there. And whenever I teach them, normally in Kenya, we have always been, as professors, we do what is called evaluation, Wambui. That is examinations.
Yes.
In terms of assignment, cards, written exams, and all the rest. And what we have always tested is the knowledge. And yet learning is not just about knowledge. As a university professor and a HR expert in this country,
yes,
learning is about abilities, learning is about skills, learning is about knowledge. Tuko pamoja? And so most of the time, including the 844, which we dreamt would actually address the whole salad of this package of knowledge, the ask, the abilities, skills, and knowledge. At the end of it, the terminal examination has always been testing the knowledge. Now, CBC is saying that when I teach Wambui in class, statistics and sample surveys and opinion poll surveys, which I like so much, I should give her abilities to do even that opinion polls in a way that when she says so and so is the most qualified candidate, that result is accepted. The abilities, the skills, and the knowledge. Now, CBC, as a university professor, is actually trying to address that. That it is not only going to examine the knowledge, but it's also going to examine the skills. It's also going to examine the abilities. And that takes me back to now answering that question as a parent. I have children in standard 1 to 5. I also have children in Form 1 to Form 4. I also have children in the university. I also have a PhD student. I'm blessed, Wambui.
Oh, yes,
really
you
blessed. And all of them, apart from the ones who are from now secondary, all the other two are actually in the CBC. Joy, my daughter, who is a grade 5, a pioneer CBC candidate, even last night, she had to go and even make my room, polish my shoes. This morning, she woke up very early, actually to make for me a pancake to eat. She does so well. What I've seen as a parent of all level, CBC is something very good. Again, in the 844 and the system that I went through, 7423. Wambui, you look young and beautiful. By the way, happy Valentine.
Thank you.
Maybe you don't know that before 844, we had 7423. Okay? Now, in that system, you are all the time, people were just asking you questions about the knowledge alone. They were never asking about disabilities, skills, and all the rest. But in this system, that is what is being addressed.
Yes.
That even when you go to the exams, already they have assessed these attitudes, abilities, they have assessed these skills, and then the knowledge is just given some 40% or 50%. And I think that's a reality check for the new system, that it is not just the exam I do the 2 hours that count, but it is exams that count all through. But again, parenting, is because people who go to school are still very young. Parenting is not just about making sure that you pay the fees and leave the children there. In the CBC also, I've had some parents have complained that they are involved so much. I think when you plan, as my good minister Magoa has said, it is you, like me and Pamela, my wife, Dr. Pamela Odhiambo, wherever you are. It is us who said we will have the 11 children. And so it is our responsibility to parent them, even in school, even at home, even in church, that kind of thing. Now, the CBC allow a salad of all all the people to involve in the growth and development of the abilities, of the skills, and the knowledge of the child.
All right.
This is something very good. As a Kenyan now, I think Kenyans, CBC addresses so many things. The systems we have had as teachers, as parents, as curriculum developer in this country is that you go to school so that you can end up getting a white-collar job. Now, the CBC is saying, if you can get it like Wambui has been employed by KBC in a very nice place here, we thank God for that. But again, what about an Odhiambo there who has gone to school and there's no job? CBC says if you don't have a job, there are other things that you can also be done. And so it imparts on you the skills that you can use even in the village. It imparts on you the knowledge, the abilities and the attitude that can make you fit even if you don't have a job. And so it is an entrepreneurial curriculum, it is a technology curriculum, it's a knowledge-based curriculum, it's a skill-based curriculum, and it makes you more flexible to adapt. As a senior professor in this country and a senior citizen in this country, this is the best thing that we can have. But Wambui,
yes,
I may be wrong if I just talk of the goodness of the CBC. Anything that you start Kenyans, there is always a challenge. So there could be some challenge, but I think I do request all of us as parents, all of us as higher education professionals, all of us to really try to wade through and sort out this as we go on so that eventually we perfect the CBC. Thank you, Wambui.
Now, just speaking about these challenges, you have seen so many of the people that are complaining about CBCs because they don't understand it. They don't see, how practical it is. When the practical bit is brought to them as a parent, they're like, we didn't sign up for this. I'm paying the school to teach my child this and this. Now, as an educator, how would you, advise parents, institutions, and even the ministry to go about when it comes to changing the narrative around this particular curriculum, because we're living in a time where it is even being weaponized for political mileage in different spaces?
Thank you. Our school governance system is very clear, especially in the primary, secondary, and even in the university we have governance structure. We have the PTAs, and I think all that we need to do, starting from the highest primary school, is that let's sensitize the parents in the PTA meetings. Let's sensitize the parents also in the PTA meeting through the BOM whenever they come. Our leaders, earlier on this today before I came here, there was a discussion about leadership. I think our leaders should also not just talk when you don't really know what you are talking about. I don't think it is right to go in the press and say, when we take this, we go do this and that. I don't think it is right. What we need to do is sensitize people about the goodness, but also the challenges that there are and how we can collectively talk about this. And so, Wambui, my encouragement is that let all schools, let the Ministry of Education, let all stakeholders gang up together in a positive way. Even the politicians that seem to be influencing our people so much, whatever they talk about need to be a message of hope to all of our people about that system. So idea is sensitization to everybody in the churches, everywhere. And I think this will take change, because it's the best thing, I think, as I know, the CBC that we are coming up with is actually the best thing that is good for this country.
And I absolutely agree with you. As a parent who has a child in the CBC part of the divide,
to make two of us.
It is a beautiful experience for the children. Remember, this is a conversation about the state of education in our country, and particularly higher education, because CBC will get there in just a number of years. We want to take a very quick breather. We will be back to continue with this discussion. Any questions, comments, or clarifications that you may be seeking, feel free to send them through using the hashtag Good Morning Kenya on Twitter. Be right back.
Good morning.